Taehyung's life was as ordinary as it could get. A high school senior, he spent most of his days studying, sketching in his notebook, and looking out for his younger sister Jimin. The small apartment they shared wasn't much, but it was home. Life in the bustling city was predictable, until the day Taehyung's quiet world collided with the dark and dangerous underworld ruled by Jungkook. Jungkook was not just any mafia boss. He was the most feared and powerful figure in the city. Charismatic, ruthless, and fiercely intelligent, Jungkook had built his empire with blood and fire. From the shadows, he controlled the city's pulse, every deal, every decision, and every betrayal. His loyal team included Yoongi, his brilliant but cold lawyer, and Hoseok, his charismatic and meticulous personal manager. Yet despite his power, Jungkook's heart was a fortress, guarded and untouchable. The fateful meeting between Taehyung and Jungkook occurred on a rainy evening. Taehyung, walking home from school, stumbled upon a bloody scene in an alley. A group of men in suits stood over an unconscious figure, their faces cold and expressionless. Taehyung froze, realizing too late that he had seen something he shouldn't have. Before he could run, a voice sliced through the tension like a blade. "Let him go," Jungkook commanded, stepping out of the shadows. His sharp gaze landed on Taehy, who stood trembling. Jungkook's expression softened for a brief moment, but his voice remained firm. "You shouldn't be here." Despite the fear gripping him, Taehy held Jungkook's gaze, his wide eyes filled with both terror and defiance. Something about the boy intrigued Jungkook, though he couldn't place why. From that night on, Taehyung's life changed irrevocably. Jungkook began to appear in his life in unexpected ways. At first, it was subtle, a black car parked outside his school, a shadowy figure watching from a distance. But soon, Jungkook made his presence known, rescuing Taehyung from a group of bullies one day after school. "You're too trusting," Jungkook said, his voice a mix of exasperation and amusement. "This world isn't kind to people like you." Taehyung couldn't understand why someone like Jungkook, a man surrounded by danger and violence, would care about him. Despite Jungkook's intimidating demeanor, Taehyung saw glimpses of vulnerability, a kindness buried beneath the layers of his ruthless exterior. Against his better judgment, Taehyung found himself drawn to the enigmatic man who had saved him. Jungkook, too, was grappling with emotions he didn't understand. Taehyung's innocence and warmth were a stark contrast to the darkness of his world. For the first time in years, Jungkook felt something other than cold calculation, a desire to protect, to cherish, to love. But he knew the risks. His world was no place for someone like Taehyung. "You should stay away from me," Jungkook warned one evening as they sat together on a park bench. But even as he said the words, he couldn't bring himself to let Taehyung go. The danger intensified when one of Jungkook's rivals discovered his growing affection for Taehyung. Threats were made, and Taehyung found himself pulled deeper into Jungkook's dangerous world. Yoongi, ever the pragmatist, advised Jungkook to cut ties. "He's a liability," Yoongi said bluntly. Hoseok agreed, but added with a smirk, "Though I've never seen you this human before." Jungkook ignored their advice, determined to protect Taehyung at all costs. Meanwhile, Taehyung's sister Jimin noticed the changes in him. "You've been distracted lately," she said one evening. Taehyung hesitated, unsure of how to explain Jungkook's presence in his life. Jimin, fiercely protective of her brother, eventually discovered the truth. She confronted Jungkook, demanding to know his intentions. "I'll protect him," Jungkook promised, his voice steady. Jimin wasn't convinced but saw the sincerity in his eyes. "If you hurt him, I'll make you regret it," she warned, her fierce determination earning Jungkook's respect. As Jungkook's enemies closed in, Taehyung found himself caught in the crossfire. A harrowing encounter left him injured, and Jungkook was forced to confront the reality of his dangerous life. "This is why I told you to stay away," Jungkook said, his voice breaking as he tended to Taehyung's wounds. But Taehyung, despite the pain, refused to leave. I'm not afraid of you, Jungkook, he said softly. I'm afraid of losing you. Their love story was anything but ordinary, marked by danger, sacrifice, and the constant threat of violence. But in each other they found solace, a light in the darkness. Jungkook's heart, once impenetrable, opened to Taehyung, while Taehyung discovered a strength he never knew he had. As they faced their enemies together, Jungkook vowed to protect Taehyung, even if it meant risking everything. And Taehyung, despite his fears, stood by Jungkook's side, proving that love could bloom even in the shadows. Their journey was far from over, but one thing was certain. They were each other's greatest strength, their love a beacon of hope in a world of chaos.